Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most astonishing and captivating stories ever to emerge from the world of rare coins and unexpected treasures. A story that brings excitement, curiosity, and a sense of wonder to anyone who has ever checked spare change hoping to stumble upon something extraordinary. And today's focus is a 2001 1-cent coin that collectors, enthusiasts, and treasure hunters alike claim could reach a staggering value of up to $14 million due to a combination of rare errors, bizarre minting anomalies, mysterious production quirks, and the unpredictable circumstances surrounding its creation, making it one of the most fascinating examples of how something as small and ordinary as a humble penny could transform into an object of unbelievable fortune. And as we explore the possibilities behind this coin's remarkable worth, we will take you through every angle, speculation, story, and error type believed to contribute to its legendary status, inviting you to imagine the thrill of finding such a coin tucked away in a jar, hiding in an old drawer, or resting at the bottom of a forgotten wallet. And the journey begins with the understanding that coins minted in the early 2000s might seem too modern to carry extraordinary value. But history has shown countless times that errors can happen in any era, sometimes in ways so rare that only one example surfaces. And this 2001 cent is often described by collectors as potentially containing a blend of multiple layered mistakes, including off-center strikes, so dramatic they distort the proportions of the design, double dies of unusual clarity that stack and stretch Lincoln's features, planchet mix-ups that result in unexpected metallic compositions, edge anomalies that defy the intended smoothness of the rim, die cracks that resemble lightning streaks across the surface, and possible experimental impressions that may or may not have been intended to test equipment, each story blending into the next as enthusiasts attempt to piece together the true origin of what could make a coin like this rise to a $14 million valuation. And although much of its story is shrouded in speculation, the idea that a coin from 2001 could become so valuable encourages exploration into the types of mistakes that might exist, starting with the most dramatic. The off-center strike, which occurs when the planchet is not seated properly under the die and results in a coin with part of the design missing or shifted. And while minor off-center strikes are somewhat common, an extreme one, especially one combined with other unusual characteristics, could become incredibly sought after. And some theorists suggest that this particular 2001 cent may show an off-center shift exceeding 50, 60, or even 70%, leaving Lincoln's portrait partially or almost entirely missing, replaced instead by blank curved metal where the die never touched, creating a haunting and rare appearance that instantly fascinates collectors who understand just how unlikely such an extreme misalignment would be, especially on more modern minting equipment that typically catches and rejects such errors before circulation. And then there's the speculation about double dies, one of the most exciting categories of minting mistakes, where a coin's design elements appear to duplicate, expand, or echo themselves due to shifting during the die creation process. And some claim the rumored $14 million 2001 cent might exhibit doubling so bold that Lincoln's eye appears doubled with crisp clarity. Letters of the word liberty show extra shadows or layered outlines, and the date 2001 itself appears stretched or duplicated with unmistakable separation between impressions. And it's this kind of powerful doubling, combined possibly with other errors, that transforms a coin from interesting to astronomical in value. Because double dies of this magnitude are almost legendary in the world of pennies, especially in the modern era when quality control is far stricter than it was decades earlier. And then we must consider the possibility of a planchet error, one of the most dramatic mistakes because it affects the fundamental material from which the coin is made. And some enthusiasts believe this mysterious 2001 penny may have been struck on an experimental or foreign planchet, perhaps one intended for another denomination or even another country, resulting in unusual weight, color, density, or metallic resonance when tapped. And such anomalies could happen if planchets were stored incorrectly, mislabeled, swapped by accident or mistakenly fed into a coin press mint for 1 cent production. And a composition error would immediately set a coin apart because metal analysis provides concrete, undeniable evidence of a minting mistake. And if the coin bore the wrong alloy entirely, say struck on a bronze planchet years after the U.S. Mint stopped using them, or struck on a steel, aluminum, or foreign blank, the value would skyrocket, especially if the coin combined this error with striking anomalies, doubling, or off-center impressions, creating a one-of-a-kind hybrid of mistakes so improbable that collectors would compete fiercely for ownership, driving the price into multi-million-dollar territory. And then another fascinating possibility lies in die cracks, tiny or sometimes massive fissures on the die that imprint raised, jagged lines onto the finished coin. And while minor die cracks are common, dramatic ones are exceptionally valuable, especially if they create shapes or patterns that collectors nickname and adore. And some suggest this 2001 cent might display a crack that stretches across Lincoln's portrait like a bolt of lightning, or a break that creates raised metal blobs known as die breaks or cuds, altering the rim and distorting parts of the design in ways that reveal the moment the die began to fail. And because die breaks capture the physical history of the striking process, they can add significant collector value, particularly if they form recognizable shapes or combine with other errors. And from another angle, we might imagine an even more unusual scenario, such as a broad strike, where the retaining collar fails and the coin expands outward without the typical raised rim, leaving a smooth, wide disc with distorted features. And if this happened in conjunction with a planchet or doubling error, the result could be sensational. A coin so different from the intended shape that it immediately becomes a rare specimen of mint malfunction. And some theorists go deeper and propose that the coin could be a mule error, one of the rarest types of mistakes where dies from two different denominations or designs are accidentally paired, such as using a cent obverse with a dime reverse. A mistake so extraordinarily rare that each known example in history commands massive value. And if such a mule pairing somehow occurred in 2001, even for a split second before being caught, and only a single coin escaped into circulation, it could become one of the rarest U.S. mint errors ever discovered. And the idea of a 1 cent mule with another denomination evokes enormous collector passion and near limitless bidding potential, easily justifying claims of $14 million or more, especially if authenticated by reliable experts. And then we consider strike-through errors, where foreign objects like grease, metal shavings, or cloth become trapped between the die and planchet, leaving ghost-like impressions or blank patches where part of the design never fully appears. An extreme strike-through could give the coin a bizarre appearance that perplexes even seasoned numismatists, inviting debate and interest that increases its desirability. And if multiple strike-throughs occurred simultaneously, creating layered aberrations across the surface, it would further elevate the coin's mystique, value, and allure. And when considering all these potential mistakes, we also venture into theories about experimental mint testing, where prototypes or trial strikes might be created using alternative preparations. Or the next 2017 D1 Cent USA coin. Thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most unbelievable, jaw-dropping, mind-bending stories in the entire world of coin collecting. So settle in and get comfortable, because what you're about to hear regarding the extraordinary, mysterious, and unbelievably valuable 2017 D1 Cent coin, a coin that some collectors claim could be worth as much as $14 million under the perfect circumstances due to a combination of rare mistakes, barely understood mint errors, freak occurrences during production, and baffling possibilities that continue to fuel debates, speculation, and fascination throughout the global numismatic community, is something that goes far beyond the simple idea of a tiny copper-plated zinc disc and enters the realm of a modern treasure hunt that has coin enthusiasts, experts, hobbyists, treasure seekers, and everyday people all wondering how something so small, so common on the surface, and so overlooked in everyday life could transform into a once-in-a-generation anomaly worth more money than most people will ever see in their entire lifetime. And as we welcome you into this exploration, we want you to imagine the feeling of holding a coin minted in 2017 at the Denver Mint. A coin that looks just like millions of others at first glance, but hides within its design, its structure, and its mysterious path through the minting process an entire universe of possibilities that can drive its price through the roof. And this script will take you through each potential error, each hypothetical mistake, each strange twist of fate, and each unusual circumstance that could push this little 2017 D penny into the extraordinary $14 million territory. Starting with the fundamental understanding that coin errors are not random in the sense of being impossible to analyze, but are random enough to create a sense of magic when a bizarre one is discovered. Because collectors know that a single, unexpected combination of minting mistakes can turn a 1-cent coin into a life-changing fortune. And that is exactly why the 2017 D-cent has become the subject of so many conversations, stories, rumors, and investigations as people try to identify all the ways that this coin could exhibit rare characteristics like double dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, rotated dies, broad strikes, wrong planchet errors, transitional metal composition mistakes, and even dramatic die breaks that create raised lumps, cracks, cuds, or other deformations on the coin's surface. And when these types of errors stack together or appear in an unusually extreme form, they can make collectors lose their minds with excitement, especially because modern coins like the 2017 D-Lincoln cent are generally struck in such high quantities and under such strict mechanical processes that significant errors are much rarer than they were in older decades, making any surviving mistake from 2017 stand out all the more dramatically. And that brings us to the heart of why some believe a 2017 D-cent under the right conditions could command a value as astronomical as $14 million. Because if such a coin were to combine multiple major errors at once, such as being struck on a rare transitional metal planchet, showing a strong double die on both the obverse and reverse, being struck off-center by an extreme margin, exhibiting die cracks that create visually striking shapes, and being preserved in exceptional condition with full mint luster and no major circulation damage. The rarity would be so overwhelming that serious collectors and top-tier auction houses would view it not just as an error coin, but as a once-in-history phenomenon, something equivalent to discovering a modern-day counterpart to legendary rarities like the 1943 bronze cent or the 1955 double die, except amplified by the fact that modern error production is tightly controlled, and therefore any dramatic error from 2017 becomes exponentially rarer than older mistakes. And so the story continues as we explore factors like how the Denver Mint's machinery in 2017 may have experienced occasional malfunctions, die fatigue, microscopic misalignments, or moments of unexpected mechanical stress that could have created opportunities for bizarre strikes, such as coins ending up on the wrong conveyor, planchets intended for foreign coins, or leftover metal stock from previous years accidentally ending up in the feed system, or dies becoming misaligned at the exact moment a planchet entered the striking chamber. And collectors know that it's these unpredictable combinations that create the holy grails of numismatics, the types of coins that fuel urban legends and drive auction prices to heights normally reserved for ultra-rare gold pieces or historically significant artifacts. And when you combine that with the fact that the 2017 D-Lincoln cent design features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union shield on the reverse, both of which contain intricate details that can amplify the visual impact of errors like doubling or die cracks, you get the perfect canvas for a dramatic mint error that instantly captures the imagination of anyone who sees it, whether or not they understand the technical explanations behind minting anomalies. And speaking of technical explanations, we cannot ignore the obsession many collectors have with double dies, because a true double die on the obverse of a Lincoln cent, especially a strong one affecting the date, the mint mark, Lincoln's profile, or the mottos, can easily turn an ordinary coin into a valuable one. And if such doubling were to appear simultaneously with doubling on the reverse, perhaps affecting the shield design, the lettering, or the structural lines, the coin would become even more extraordinary. And then imagine adding other exotic possibilities like a 2017 D penny struck on a copper planchet instead of the usual copper-plated zinc composition, creating a modern transitional error similar to the famous 1982 transition, but this time occurring decades later in a highly controlled environment where such a mistake should be impossible. And the impossibility of such an error is exactly what makes it so captivating to collectors, because if it did happen, it would represent a near miraculous break in protocol. A moment where human oversight, machine error, material confusion, and sheer luck align to produce something the mint never intended. And we can also think about catastrophic die breaks that cause massive raised areas on the coin, creating shapes of missing design detail, giant cuts, or dramatic visual deformities that make the coin instantly recognizable. And if such a coin also happened to be perfectly preserved by chance, perhaps because it never entered circulation, slipped into a sealed roll, or landed in a collector's hands immediately after minting, then its condition combined with its dramatic errors could push it into unimaginable price ranges, especially if only one such example exists, or if it remains the most extreme version ever discovered. And collectors love the idea of unique coins, pieces that exist in a population of one, because exclusivity drives the highest price levels in the auction world. And then there's the psychological factor where the narrative of a coin, the story behind its error, the mystery of how it survived, and the fascination with its journey all contribute to its value as much as its physical attributes do. And so when people imagine the 2017 D penny that could theoretically bring $14 million at auction, they aren't just imagining a coin with mechanical mistakes. They are imagining a modern legend, a symbol of numismatic wonder, an artifact of chance so profound that it becomes famous far beyond collecting circles. And that fame alone could cause bidding wars among wealthy collectors who want a piece of history that cannot be replicated. Last 2016, D1 cent USA coin today as we dive into one of the most astonishing stories in the world of modern coin collecting, a story that has captured the imagination of enthusiasts, treasure hunters, and curious minds alike. Because today we are exploring the unbelievable rise of the 2016 D Lincoln 1 cent that some collectors claim could be worth up to $14 million due to a fascinating combination of rare errors, minting anomalies, improbable circumstances, and the extraordinary possibility that a handful of these coins may have been struck under conditions so unusual and so riddled with subtle mistakes that they have taken on near mythical status in the numismatic community. And as we unpack this incredible tale, we will take you through an extended deep dive into the kinds of minting errors that can elevate an ordinary coin into a multi-million-dollar rarity. The subtle characteristics that collectors look for when identifying something of immense value, and the long chain of events and possibilities that create the perfect storm that transforms a single copper-plated zinc cent into something that experts speculate could become one of the most valuable modern coins ever recorded, beginning with the basic idea that when a coin leaves the Denver Mint with errors such as dramatic double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, wrong planchet strikes, split plating, missing layers, misaligned dies, die deterioration patterns, or any combination of these anomalies, it immediately becomes more interesting to collectors. But for a 2016 D penny to escalate to the realm of $14 million valuations, it would likely involve an error so extraordinary and so rare that only one or perhaps a tiny handful could possibly exist. And this pushes us into a detailed exploration of what kinds of errors could produce such astronomical value. Because imagine a scenario where a 2016 D cent, ordinarily one of billions produced, was accidentally struck on a completely wrong planchet, such as a leftover pre-1982 solid copper planchet, or even more shockingly, on a foreign coin planchet intended for another denomination entirely, combining a composition error with a striking error, such as a double struck or triple struck sequence in which the dies rotated or shifted between strikes, causing unusual overlapping images, ghosted lettering, distorted features, or bizarre doubling of Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions. And then imagine Further, that the coin also suffered from a dramatic off-center strike that left both the design elements clearly visible but shifted in such a way that the error is both obvious and visually impressive, because coins that are highly dramatic in appearance tend to draw far more collector attention than subtle errors. And beyond that, consider the possibility that the die pair used to strike this coin had already clashed violently before the strike, meaning the dies collided with no planchet between them, imprinting mutual impressions onto each other and transferring those impressions faintly or boldly onto the final struck coin, creating eerie outlines or secondary features, such as parts of the memorial building or shield design showing up on Lincoln's portrait side, or vice versa. And from there, think about other dramatic features like lamination errors where the plating peels or splits, revealing strange textures or metallic layers beneath the surface, or even scenarios where the coin was struck with a capped die, causing the design to appear blurred, sunken, or mushroomed, or perhaps a brockage strike where another coin became stuck between the die and the planchet, transferring a mirror image imprint backwards onto the coin in a way that is so visually shocking that collectors pay enormous sums for them. And we can also consider transitional errors or accidental continuation of earlier metal compositions, even though the U.S. Mint is generally meticulous about clearing old stock, yet occasionally mistakes slip through and create some of the most valuable coins ever known. In the 2016, D. Penny could hypothetically include such anomalies combined with a provenance story in which the coin was somehow saved by chance, discovered in circulation, or found in a sealed roll where it remained untouched for years, preserving its condition at an extremely high grade, such as MS 69 or MS 70. A virtually impossible grade for a circulation strike, but not entirely out of the realm of possibility if the coin was never handled and remained protected since the day it was struck, and the combination of an ultra-high grade with an unheard-of error sequence would instantly catapult the value into the multi-million-dollar range, because rarity combined with condition is one of the most powerful forces in numismatic pricing. And if this hypothetical 2016 Descent also carried a backstory involving documented mint anomalies during its production period, such as reports of press malfunctions, die alignment issues, or temporary production disruptions, then collectors would become even more intrigued, especially if the coin demonstrated physical evidence consistent with such disturbances, like wavy rims, distorted lettering, incomplete plating, or unusual thickness variations. And when you add the possibility of the error combining multiple categories, such as a dramatic off-center strike of 50% or more while still showing a full date and mint mark, struck on the wrong planchet with a double die obverse and a die clash on the reverse, plus preserved in immaculate grade, you end up with the kind of coin that numismatic legend is built upon, because history shows that when modern coins sell for extremely high amounts at auction, it is rarely due to one simple error, but rather a chain of compounded mistakes that create a unique physical outcome. And collectors worldwide are drawn to coins that can be proven to be one of a kind, because rarity in its purest form means there is no direct comparison, and therefore the value becomes based on competition, desire, and the historical significance of owning something that by all logic should not exist. And as we continue exploring the world of the 2016 D. Penny's theoretical multi-million-dollar value, we can break down some of the most sought-after error types to understand how they might appear on such a specimen, including double die errors where letters and numbers appear doubled, or tripled due to misalignment of the die elements during hubbing, particularly visible in areas such as the date, mint mark, Liberty inscription, and the motto. And if a 2016 D. Penny displayed extreme doubling so strong it could be seen with the naked eye, similar to the famous 1955 double die cent or the 1969 double die. This alone could make the coin immeasurably valuable, especially if the doubling was combined with other errors. And next, consider off-center strikes, which occur when the planchet is not properly seated in the striking chamber, causing the design to be shifted. And this becomes much more valuable when the off-center strike retains the full date and mint mark, because many off-center coins lose the date area entirely. And then we must consider struck-through errors, such as when a piece of cloth, metal scrap, wire, grease, or even another planchet accidentally comes between the die and planchet, leaving a mysterious indentation or shape imprinted into the coins. Features and coins struck through these foreign materials often become extremely collectible because each struck-through pattern is unique, making every affected coin one of a kind. And then we consider broad strikes, where the collar die fails to confine the metal properly, causing the coin to spread outwards with a smooth, widened rim. And while broad strikes alone are not typically multimillion-dollar errors, a broad strike combined with a wrong planchet or double die could drastically raise the potential value. And then moving on to wrong planchet errors, which are some of the most valuable errors in modern United States coinage. Because when a coin is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or foreign coin, the result can be shocking, creating anomalies in weight, thickness,